Hello, hello, hello. This is Tando from Cosmic Spark, and I'm back with another video. We are continuing on with the What I Love About Your Astrology Sign series. So thank you for coming back, and let's get straight into it. Alrighty, so Sagittarius. What I love about Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the ninth sign of the zodiac. I don't know why I had to think about that. Ninth sign of the zodiac in the third quadrant, and it is a mutable sign. So we're taking everything we've learned from Libra and Scorpio, and we're combining it and making it bigger and better. And that's sort of how I like to think of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter is considered to be a masculine planet. Jupiter is a masculine planet. Sagittarius is a fire sign, which is also masculine. So Sagittarians are very masculine in their energy and expression, whether they're masculine or feminine. How this translates in the women. So firstly, let me preface this by saying, as an air sign woman, I adore fire sign women. I adore fire sign women because they're less male-centered and much more likely to be the ones to stand up for women in situations where they're being taken advantage of, and in situations where men are wanting to get away with things. Sagittarians are the type of people, amongst all the fire signs, all of them are included, that would be the ones to say something, not wait until the perfect time, being blunt, straightforward, straight to the point, and feeling equal to men. I think a lot of masculine women in the zodiac that have masculine energy, the way that it expresses itself is a lack of shyness in approaching men, whereas I find women in the zodiac that have a lot of feminine energy, feminine planets, have this sort of like shyness and reservedness when it comes to men, which is fine. But as an air sign, I love when I see other women call out certain behaviors on the spot. And I think Sagittarians, I really, really love how they approach discussions about what they should or shouldn't do as women. They are very quick to shut that sort of conversation down. They're the type of women that are quick to shut a man down if he thinks that his opinion, what he does as a man is more important. He has more authority as a man. A famous Sagittarian woman that I absolutely adore is Nicki Minaj. I love the way that Nicki Minaj and other Sagittarian women that I've met in real life talk about sex, the way that they talk about dating, the way that they talk about how they go after their own pleasure as a point of priority. Because it's not something that all women do, and it's something that I think all women deserve to do for themselves. Yes. So Sagittarian women, I find them to be very bold. Sagittarius energy is very big, bold, and beautiful. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. Anywhere that Jupiter touches, it gives abundance, expansion, and it sort of magnifies whatever energy. So, for example, when you have someone that has some sort of aspect between Venus and Jupiter, especially if it's like maybe a conjunction, a square, and an opposition, you might have someone that may struggle with overindulgence or being overly lazy or leaning into sort of some of those more negative qualities. Because while Jupiter and Venus enjoy a bit of indulgence and like feeling larger than life, when there's a negative interaction between those two planets and those two energies, then you get someone who overdoes it, someone who is taking too many drugs, someone who's partying too hard, someone who is putting partying above their career goals or whatever, right? And so Jupiter is largely a very, very expansive and positive planet wherever it is, and that's why Sagittarians are naturally lucky. If you are blessed to be born with this sign, you have a luck already present in the way that you approach life. And there is an optimism to Sagittarius as well. That is an aspect of Sagittarius that I really love. These are people that, it's not that they don't experience hardship, it's just that they don't allow that hardship to taint their optimism, because it's that optimism that they pull from that allows them to keep going and reaching greater heights. While in Libra, we were thinking about being palatable, enjoying the arts and crafts, but like being soft and, you know, harmonizing your environment. Libra is like light energy. And then we go into Scorpio. Scorpio is like dark, brooding, groomy. Oh my God, groomy? Gloomy. And it's like, for me to be able to get what I want, I have to die, and I have to really dig into the dark closet that's in the basement to unearth it and find some beauty there. And then I'm going to do it again and go somewhere deeper and darker and come out on top. That's kind of how Scorpio sees things, and that sort of dark energy. And in Sagittarius, we get some sort of middle ground, because if we're looking at sort of like the darker aspects, and this is still what I like about and what I love about Sagittarius, on the darker aspect, we've got Sagittarians can be very cynical and very skeptical, and they can be very dry about their delivery, about their observations of society. Sagittarius really philosophizes. Sagittarius is represented by the archer, and I love to think of the imagery of the archer and the centaur as being a mixture of like intellectualism, right? Intellectualism, scholarliness as well, like the top half of the centaur. And then the bottom half is representing the animalistic drive, the animalistic need to sort of engage with life in full force, but also athleticism, because I have found both male and female Sagittarians to be quite athletic. There is something athletic about them. Even when I've met Sagittarian women that were a little bit bigger, physically, there is something about their traits, their physical traits in their body that gives athleticism. If you know, you know. I can't explain it more than that. I just know that I've seen it with my own eyes. Yeah, so I really love with Sagittarian women how they deal with men, how they deal with relationships, how they deal with their own goals. These are the kinds of women that you don't have to beg to focus their energy on themselves. It might be something that they do too much for those around them. They could even be seen as a little too self-focused or selfish, whichever you want to see it, whichever way you want to see it. But on the plus side, all of that self-work and like devotion to self that Sagittarius women have is what gets them to go very far. And this is another discussion I can have at a separate time. But sometimes as women, men can disrupt our goals. This is by, you know, a man, you meet a man and you're this expansive, like, go-getting woman. And then you meet a man and he's like, yeah, I loved everything about you, and that's why I approached you. But now that you're mine, I want you to be your beautiful, bold self, but smaller. I want you to now be the mother of my children. I want you to now take care of me and this household. I want you to now do X, Y, and Z. And what happens over time is women in certain relationships will slowly stop chasing their own goals, stop hanging out with their own friends, stop remembering their own dreams in service of the masculine and in service of the relationship. And while everything serves a place, you know, women also deserve to want to be in a relationship where they devote a lot of their thoughts, dreams, aspirations towards the union. I also think if there isn't a healthy, if the woman isn't being conscious of how she can still preserve her individuality in the context of a relationship, then that's how you watch women. While a lot of men glow up in a relationship, a lot of women glow down in a relationship, and then they have to rebuild. And then when they are out of a relationship, they are big, bold, and beautiful, right? And so it comes from women having to learn over time to unlearn being socialized and relearn what it is to be in service to self and what it is to put yourself first, the way that men are already socialized to do from when they're young. And I find Sagittarians have a natural born want and need to put themselves first over anyone. Over anyone. That's not to say that you can't get a Sagittarius woman if that's what you're interested in. If you're interested in a, you know, freedom-loving, carefree, larger than life, very busy. I can't think of a Sagittarian woman I've met that wasn't super busy, because they just have all these goals, dreams, and things that they want to achieve. And there's only one person who's going to achieve them, and it's them. And they're going to make sure to fill their calendar with everything that they need to do. So if you're interested in a Sagittarius woman, go ahead, approach them, because Sagittarian women can be very, very loyal in relationships. They find someone that helps them feel expansive and helps give them a purpose and helps fan the flames of their own devotion to self. They will be ride or die for you. They will put you first. Well, maybe not first, but you'll definitely be up there. It depends on the Sagittarian. You might be put first, or you might be put equally with them, but that's still a blessing. That's still a blessing. And Sagittarian women are so inspiring. Like for example, for me, and it's not, I'm not into celebrity worship, and everyone has their own problems, but Sagittarians from afar I find to be very inspiring, particularly the women, because I am a woman and it makes sense for me to be inspired by femininity. But Sagittarian women like Nicki Minaj, for example, I can't think of any more at the top of my head, because she's the one that I have like a particular celebrity that I associate with the archetype of a star sign based on how well I think they represent their star sign. And I think Nicki Minaj is like my one for Sagittarius. And I loved when she said in the song, Sagittarius, so you know I'm an optimist. You know what I mean? Because it's so true. Yeah, so I love watching her in interviews. I love watching how hard she works. I love watching just how her career went, because I think it's a real expression of her own will. It's what we see, what she's manifested in her career is an expression of her will and her hard work combined. And I've seen that in Sagittarian women that I've met one-on-one. Sagittarian men, Sagittarian men I liken to, you know, those old white men back in the day that quote unquote discovered lands and or were paid by their benefactors that were richer aristocratic monarchs to travel the world, to be scholars and just discover through travel, through experiencing whatever it is that their special interest is. So it could be animals, it could be different cultures, it could be painting, whatever. They're paid by benefactors to go around, travel, and utilize that knowledge and turn it into art, or turn it into research, or turn it into some greater commentary about the world. And I find Sagittarian men give that energy very easily. They give very worldly, classy, classic man, but not boring classic. Because I feel like boring classic don't come for me. Okay, the archetype of a boring classic man would be more a Capricorn. It's not to say Capricorns can't get down and dirty, but they are more like your typical cookie cutter, on the surface, like that's the kind of man any woman would be lucky to have or want to have. Whereas Sagittarians have that, especially when you speak to them, because of their worldview and their philosophies, through their travel and through their friendship groups that have all of these different people from different cultures, right? There's a definite interest in different cultures when it comes to Sagittarius, dating people from a different culture, dating people that have different life philosophies. So maybe you, like this Sagittarian was raised like traveling around, and so they might actually seek someone that's not had that experience, because that allows them to feel the challenge of something different, and also the excitement too of getting to expand like her world. So there's an energy there of wanting to be challenged, because Sagittarius is go-getting. Sagittarius is a chaser. Masculine energy is a chaser. Jupiter's masculine. Sagittarius is a fire sign, which is masculine. So that's very go-getting energy. When they want something, they go get it. And they don't let anything stop them. That's why they end up traveling to all these places, dating women from different cultures and different backgrounds, experiencing, talking to this monk and then this other person from this other weird sect of religion. And so it really amalgamates this very deep and rich view of the world. But there's a stubbornness there with their worldviews, wherein there can be a self-righteousness. Because I feel, as an air sign, and maybe that's why I enjoy this energy in them, the more information you have about the world, when you actually seek out what the truth is, or you seek out different perspectives, because it's kind of hard to get the truth when whoever is in power is in charge of the narrative. And so it's through experiencing different people from with different worldviews, different cultures with different ways of viewing the world, entertaining like books and media that isn't always comfortable to you, watching documentaries on topics that you find to be scary, or it could be like you watching documentaries on like human trafficking, veganism, like expanding and exploring your worldview intellectually and also physically, right? The more access you have to information, the more open-minded you should be. So taking that, which I believe, and applying it to what I think Sagittarians do is, and especially I've seen this in the men, they end up having an open-minded worldview, but a closed-minded, they're closed-minded about people that don't view the world in exactly to the minute detail how they would see it. That's where they can get a bit stuck. Because once they state an opinion, once they say that dry observation that they've had, once they tell you how they've experienced the culture, they expect you to be like, that is the truth. They expect you to be like, that is the ultimate opinion. And if you try to argue and you try to show that you might believe that there maybe could be more nuance that they're missing, or that you have a view that's equally spot on or important about the world, they're not always as open-minded that other people's views are correct, because it was their interpretation that they feel like was the most open-minded and mature. And they're like, well, you weren't there when I was traveling. You weren't there when I was speaking to this tribe. So your opinion about the matter might not be as good as mine. So you take that however you will, because that's been my experience. But Sagittarius rules the thighs, and I think a lot of Sagittarian men just have really lovely legs in general, but like especially the thigh or butt area is particularly lovely. Do I go around looking at men and objectifying them? No. But I'm a Libra, so I notice things, and when things are beautiful, I take a note of it and I enjoy it. And I think it makes sense because Libra and Sagittarius are compatible, but also Libra rules like the lower back, maybe the lower back sort of butt area. And Sagittarians rule the thighs and have an affinity as well for that butt area. And so I think, I don't know, maybe we both just notice that area of the body. Yeah, Sagittarius men have an affinity for playing with their aesthetic. They might really adopt an aesthetic or mannerisms that are reminiscent of their enjoyment of culture and even of the past or of the arts. And some Sagittarius men really enjoy playing around with their facial hair, having different sort of unique styles in their facial hair. So they might have like a handlebar mustache, or they might have a soul patch, or they might do some interesting things with their facial hair as a focal point. I think Sagittarians are sexy, both the men and the women, because that level of confidence is sexy. A Sagittarius will walk into the room, just like laughing, and there's just like this ease and elegance about the way that they are so open. They're so open to everyone, but that openness can also be intimidating, and it can also feel like they're this bright star and you're looking outside of it. It can be hard for you to figure out if a Sagittarius likes you romantically specifically, but a sign definitely would be them spending a lot of time with you, them wanting to share their teachings and like life philosophies with you and have these like great discussions. Especially if they're agreeing with you, I think that's like a really good sign. if they're agreeing with you, if they're making sure to spend time with you, because we know that their schedule is full. But Sagittarius isn't one to pin down for the man or the woman. You want them to be in a relationship with you, but they have to feel like they can still be as expansive as they normally are. And even that you could add to their expansiveness in one way or another, that you could add even to how worldly they are seen by other people, because you're now an addition. You're like a good addition to them on their arm that they can walk around and be like, well, this is my piece. This is my piece of the pie. And this is what we do together. This is what we do apart, because there's an independence there to Sagittarius. They don't want you to be there clinging and being needy, right? Yeah, I think we can learn a lot from the sign of Sagittarius. I think we can learn to not be bogged down by the things that happen to us and have such great self-belief that we believe that we could conquer the world. Because I think all Sagittarians approach life with that lens that they can do anything that they put their mind to and no one is going to stop them. They will overcome whatever they need to overcome because they've said that they need to get that thing, and they've put their eye and they've put their attentions on something, and so they're going to make it happen. And so I find that to be really, really lovely. If you want to be with the Sagittarius person, then you need to be interesting in your own right. You need to be independent and not be clingy. To an extent, like if you're the one wanting to approach a Sagittarius and you already know they're Sagittarius beforehand, you need to pump them up on their worldviews and their intellect. Because Sagittarius is an intellectual sign and they've put a lot of work and effort into their looks. I'm not saying compromise your values, but you do have to feed their ego. You have to feed all fire signs' ego if you want to attract them and if you want them to fall for you. So just be your expansive self. Be open to learning and changing, because they're so mutable and excitable and willing to change, that if you want to stick to the same quota and way of doing things, I think they don't mind if you're not necessarily as expansive as them and haven't done as much. But if you're willing to do things, because then they'll introduce it to you, and then it's a point of pride to them that they introduced all of these exciting things, right? But yeah, I could keep going, but I realize this is probably going to be one of the longer ones, so I'm going to leave it here and cap it here. That's everything that I know / love about Sagittarius for now. There might be a second take on the series later on. We never know, but we will find out. I hope you've avoided. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're a Sagittarian, say something in the comments. Holler at me. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you love about being a Sagittarius. If you have Sagittarian energy anywhere in your chart, let me know what about that aspect of your chart really excites you, or wherever you have Sagittarius, tell me how lucky you feel in that aspect based on your observations of other people and the world. Put it into perspective, because you can really find, if you hadn't thought about it consciously, that you have been lucky in a certain way. I hope to see you in the next one. Please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Goodbye.